faithfully conveying value by interpreting great books from around the world. Hi, this is Sally with the Book Talk. Today, I'll interpret the book Dream Addiction, subtitled The Truth About America's Opioid Crisis. In this book, for simplicity, opioids refer to all drugs directly or indirectly derived from opium. These drugs include prescription painkillers like Vicodin and Oxycontin, as well as illicit drugs like heroin. One heals, one harms, yet together they're dragging countless Americans into an abyss. Since 2008, drug overdoses have surpassed car crashes as the leading cause of accidental death among Americans. And most of these abused drugs are opioids, meaning prescription painkillers and heroin. They all contain morphine-like molecules or variants, which relieve pain and create intense pleasure, leading to addiction. What caused the abuse of opioids? This question caught the attention of the book's author, Sam Quinones. Quinones is an American journalist and freelance writer who reported for the Los Angeles Times on immigration, drug trafficking, and gangs. And around 2013, he began researching prescription drug and heroin abuse in the U.S. He visited pain clinics in the Appalachian Mountains, explored heroin-producing areas in Mexico, and interviewed addicts, doctors, drug dealers, pharmaceutical insiders, and experts to uncover the truth about America's opioid crisis. Hmm. Uh, Collins. The book has 58 chapters and won the 2015 National Book Critics Circle Award for Nonfiction. Plus, it was named Book of the Year by outlets like the Boston Globe and The Guardian. How often the New York Times Book Review praised it as a complex puzzle, offering an eye-opening account of one of America's most important stories over recent decades. Next, I'll break it down into two parts to explain the book's key points. First, how prescription painkillers became widespread in the U.S. Second, how prescription drugs became linked to heroin. In the first part, let's discuss how prescription painkillers became widespread in the U.S. because they contain morphine factors or their variants. Before the 1970s, people were very cautious about opioids. Medical schools taught students to prescribe carefully and avoid causing patient addiction. Even if dying patients are writhing in pain, getting a small dose of medication often requires signatures from multiple doctors. But since the 1970s, attitudes toward painkillers began to slowly change. A hospice in the UK regularly administered opioids to terminally ill patients, reasoning that since they were dying anyway, what did it matter if they got addicted? But isn't it more important to alleviate the patient's pain and allow them to die with dignity? By the 1980s and 1990s, the medical community's attitude toward opioids further relaxed, gradually expanding their use from cancer patients to those with chronic pain. First, the World Health Organization introduced the pain ladder for cancer, listing morphine as an essential drug for cancer pain relief and declaring freedom from pain a basic human right. Pain and right health action, right action, and white. Then, some U.S. institutions designated pain as the fifth vital sign after temperature, pulse, respiration, and blood pressure, requiring active treatment. In this shift, two key factors played a driving role. The first key factor was a letter to the editor, commonly known as the Porter and Jick letter. The letter indicated that less than 1% of patients using opioids became addicted to them. Jick was an American doctor who conducted a survey on opioid use in his own hospital. Porter was a graduate student who helped with some calculations. The Porter and Jick letter was published in the New England Journal of Medicine in 1980 and was widely cited by the medical community and pharmaceutical industry, even hailed as a landmark study by Time magazine in 2001. This letter showed that excessive concern about patients becoming addicted to opioids was unfounded. The second key factor was the Press-Ganey survey. This was a patient satisfaction survey implemented in the U.S. starting in the 1990s. Patients felt they had a right to be free from pain. If they weren't satisfied, doctors risked receiving poor ratings, causing trouble for themselves. Since the addiction probability for opioids was only 1%, why not prescribe them to patients? But in reality, the Porter and Jick letter was just a letter to the editor, not rigorous scientific research. That less than 1% addiction rate in the letter also had strict limitations. First, Dr. Jick's study cases were strictly controlled hospitalized patients. Moreover, for these patients, medication is administered under doctor supervision, with very small doses. There's absolutely no way they could take bottles of painkillers home. Furthermore, pain, unlike pulse or other vital signs, cannot be measured objectively. For instance, if someone cuts their hand, some people jump in pain, while others stay calm. When dealing with chronic pain, like back or knee pain, whether a doctor prescribes opioid painkillers and how much requires a deep understanding of the patient's medical history. However, at that time, healthcare reforms in the U.S. caused a surge in the number of patients primary care doctors had to see. Doctors have a saying, one pain patient can ruin your whole day's work, and opioids became a godsend for them. In 1996, OxyContin was introduced against this backdrop. OxyContin is a prescription painkiller for chronic pain patients manufactured by Purdue Pharma, an American pharmaceutical company. OxyContin's composition is simple. It contains only one active ingredient, oxycodone. Molecularly, it resembles heroin.
The company promoted OxyContin as time-released, meaning it wouldn't cause sudden highs or lows, making it less addictive.
From the start, Purdue Pharma expanded OxyContin's target audience from cancer patients to chronic pain sufferers. It can treat back discomfort, knee pain, toothaches, headaches, and pain from various sports injuries. This market is huge. In the U.S. alone, there are 35 million people with back pain, 5 times more than cancer patients. To persuade doctors to adopt aggressive treatment, OxyContin launched a nationwide marketing blitz. The company hosted pain management seminars and funded continuing education for over 20,000 doctors. The company sent gifts to doctors and provided coupons to patients. Copy-cons could be redeemed for free prescriptions at participating pharmacies. From 1997 to 2002, OxyContin prescriptions for cancer pain rose from 250,000 to over 1 million, while those for chronic pain surged from 670,000 to 6.2 million, a 825% increase. By 2001 and 2, OxyContin's annual sales hit $1 billion. Undeniably, some doctors prescribing OxyContin genuinely aim to ease patient suffering, but many others saw huge business opportunities. Started one pill mill after another. Simply put, a pill mill is a legal pain clinic, but the doctors inside only prescribe painkillers and offer no other treatments. In 1996, a doctor named David Proctor opened the first pill mill in the U.S. in South Shore, Kentucky.
Before that, Dr. Proctor was known for his quick handling of workers' compensation claims.
Across the river from South Shore is Portsmouth, Ohio, once an industrial hub. But in the 1970s and 80s, Portsmouth's economy declined. Factories closed, moved away, shops shut down, thousands of jobs vanished, the population halved to about 20,000, and unemployment soared. This led to a surge in applications for federal disability insurance in Portsmouth and surrounding areas. Some had genuine disabilities, others did not. But all required a doctor's diagnosis. Proctor not only processed claims quickly, but was also very generous in prescribing painkillers.
No matter if patients complained of neck, back, or leg pain, he would prescribe opioids.
OxyContin, launched in 1996, was the ideal drug for pill mills. It was legal and addictive. Although Purdue Pharma promoted OxyContin's time-release formula, claiming it would prevent sharp peaks and valleys in oxycodone levels, similar to heroin, thus avoiding sudden highs and reducing addiction risk. But later, federal investigators found that after taking OxyContin, the peak levels of oxycodone in the blood were incredibly high. In short, Whether someone wanted to get high or genuinely needed pain relief, once they took Oxycontin, they were likely to become dependent. This brought a steady stream of income to pill mills. Prescriptions for controlled substances could only be issued once a month, and patients had to be present. That is, patients had to pay about $250 each month for the visit. Proctor's waiting room was always full. Patients quickly got addicted and claimed their pain worsened, so Proctor would increase the dosage. In 1996, Randy, an Ohio prison guard, went to Proctor after suffering a severe back injury in a fight with an inmate. Proctor gave him 6 months off work and a 30-day supply of Oxycontin. Looking back, Randy realized that minor injury didn't require such strong painkillers at all. But at the time, he only thought how great Oxycontin was. It took all the pain away. 30 days later, thinking he was healed, Randy didn't refill the prescription. But soon he fell ill. His whole body ached, he vomited and had diarrhea, and couldn't get out of bed. He was almost perfect. Oh, it's 10. Randy thought he had a severe flu, but someone suggested it might be drug withdrawal symptoms. Randy returned to Proctor's clinic, paid $200 for a 3-minute visit, and got an Oxycontin prescription. He recalled the clinic was packed with people jostling in line, but most were faking pain. In the waiting room, Randy saw 6 coworkers. He lowered his head and left with his prescription. As his addiction worsened, Randy couldn't wait for monthly clinic visits and started buying pills on the street. Luckily, he recognized his problem and sought help from others. It took 3.5 years after entering Proctor's clinic for Randy to fully overcome his addiction. In the 1990s, Proctor faced increasing complaints and investigations from authorities. A car accident then left him unable to practice. But doctors from his pill mill replicated this business model elsewhere. In eastern Kentucky, Dr. Cohen pre-printed prescriptions, giving the same dose regardless of the patient's claimed condition. In 1 year, he prescribed 2.7 million pills of Oxycontin and other drugs, while his town had only 3,400 residents.
Another doctor, Williams, saw patients every 90 seconds, at one point prescribing 2.3 million pills in 9 months.
Worse, these pill doctors didn't just prescribe Oxycontin, they also prescribed benzodiazepines like Valium for insomnia simultaneously. Taking them with Oxycontin is dangerous but produces an intense high. Benzodiazepines seem to enhance the euphoria from opioids, making them even more addictive. By the new millennium, pill mills had spread across the Midwest, Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia, and beyond. At one point in Portsmouth, there was 1 pill mill for every 1,800 residents. Addicts in pajamas fought outside clinics while smoking and waiting for pizza deliveries, disregarding public image, while ordinary people found ways to profit from the pills. The first to spot the opportunity were seniors who got prescriptions and sold them to younger addicts. Then professional drug dealers emerged, like blonde Marianne Henson, who became a pill trafficker. Marianne, born in the 1970s, started using drugs in high school, became addicted, and struggled financially as an adult. Oxycontin gave her a chance to get rich. She bought an MRI result from a patient with a back injury, scanned it into her computer, and reused it by changing names. She also recruited addicts to carry these altered MRI results to see doctors. Typically, each addict could get 98 over 80 milligrams Oxycontin pills or other oxycodone generics per clinic visit. Half went to the addict, half to Marianne. At market prices, 1 milligram of Oxycontin sold for $1.80 per pill. After deducting the $250 clinic fee and other costs, one addict could earn Marianne at least $3,000. Of course, she could also buy things directly with Oxycontin. During the 1990s, many goods and services in Portsmouth could be traded for pills. Marianne bought a car with Oxycontin. She paid for dental visits, cable TV installation, steaks, diapers, detergent, and perfume, all with pills. Thousands in Ohio, Kentucky, and elsewhere made money just like Marianne. Later, when Kentucky and other states established prescription tracking systems to monitor which patients got which drugs from which doctors, traffickers and addicts began seeking prescriptions in other states, even traveling to Florida. Um, Florida didn't install its prescription monitoring system until 2009, the last state in the U.S. to do so. The author believes if OxyContin had been required to be purchased with cash, the black market wouldn't have spread as it did. But in some areas, job opportunities were so scarce that many survived on just $500 monthly in Social Security benefits while supporting entire families. So they turned to Medicaid cards. With a Medicaid card and a willing doctor, an addict could get $1,000 worth of drugs for $3 in copays, then sell them on the street for $10,000. Wow. Oh. So from 1998 to 2008, in Scioto County, Ohio alone, the number of people applying for benefits doubled, increasing from 870 to 1,100 people. Some addicts stole from Walmart and traded stolen goods for pills. Generally, $100 worth of merchandise could be traded for $50 worth of pills. But if addicts were desperate for drugs, they might sell stolen items cheap. Marianne once traded a 15-milligram pill for stolen Nike basketball shoes and bought a refrigerator with 90 milligrams pills. Walmart employees, paid notoriously low wages, didn't care much about preventing theft. Some employees used drugs themselves. Amid this chaos, a generation born during urban decline became slaves to drugs. Even judges, mayors, and police chiefs' kids got addicted. OxyContin hit the market. A decade later, 6.1 million were abusing it, 2.4% of America's population. At first glance, this number seems small, but in the 1980s to 90s, crack cocaine, a highly potent drug, at its peak spread in the U.S., there were fewer than 500,000 users nationwide annually. In 2007, Purdue Pharma and 3 executives pleaded guilty to improper marketing charges and were fined $634 million. In 2010, Purdue Pharma reformulated OxyContin to include abuse deterrent ingredients, making it harder to crush or inject. This worked, but it came 20 years too late. OxyContin had already created massive numbers of addicts across America, and when someone gets addicted to OxyContin, they're likely to switch to heroin. A government survey showed 373,000 reported heroin users in 2006, rising to 620,000 by 2010, nearly doubling in 5 years, with 80% starting from prescription painkillers. A heroin dealer, the dealer told the author, heroin and OxyContin are the same. Addicts find it much easier to get product from us than prescriptions from doctors. Why is getting drugs easier than prescriptions? This ties to Mexicans seeking the American dream up north, who pioneered a new retail model, delivering cheap, potent black tar heroin to mainstream America through convenient, attentive service. Next, in part 2, we'll talk about how black tar heroin flooded America. Black tar heroin is a semi-processed heroin, appearing black and sticky. It can be smoked or injected. Its origin located on Mexico's Pacific coast, in a small place called Jalisco. Jalisco is Mexico's sugarcane region, home to many big farmers. But farming is too tough. Kids don't want to repeat their parents' lives, while drug trafficking earns money much easier. In Jalisco's mountains, vast opium poppies are grown. Locals master the traditional craft of boiling poppy sap into black tar heroin, which is hidden in cassette players or backpacks and smuggled to the U.S. In the early 1980s, Jalisco's first immigrants started selling heroin in Los Angeles. These people were called the Jalisco Boys. By rural Mexican standards, they were middle-class or wealthy farmers' kids, only they had enough money to pay smugglers. Boston, northbound. To make a living in America, the Jalisco Boys weren't America's first drug dealers. As newcomers, they had clear self-awareness and positioning. They avoided traditional heroin markets. Philadelphia was mafia turf. New York had armed gangs as the heroin capital, and Baltimore was out. The Exalisco boys targeted mid-sized towns with wealthy communities, growing addict populations, and no competition. The Exalisco boys' most unique aspect was innovating a retail system, delivering heroin to customers like takeout. Picture it as a fast food chain, with each heroin den linked to a source in Mexico. The source in Xalisco supplied directly to the U.S. Each den manager had an operator stationed in an apartment taking orders from addicts. Then the operator passed orders and drop-off points to drivers, who drove around the city delivering. Typically, a den had 3 to 4 drivers, each stuffing about zero point 0.1 grams of black tar heroin into a small balloon. Then, like chipmunks, they'd stuff 25 to 30 balloons into their mouths. Additionally, hundreds of balloons were hidden in the car. If police stopped them, they'd quickly drink water to swallow the balloons. Later, the balloons pass with waste. Drivers arrive at designated spots like McDonald's or mall parking lots. Then, an addict hops in the car, the driver spits out the balloons, the deal's done, and the driver leaves with cash. Simple as buying pizza. The drivers all come from Jalisco too, core or relatives of earlier immigrants. They sleep on floors in the U.S., won't even buy a mattress, dreaming only of making money to flaunt back home, building houses and funding local sports teams. Later, as the drug network expanded, the Exalisco boys broadened their hiring but kept their retail model. Different dens competed, but since drivers were all hometown folks, they never used violence against each other or carried guns. Plus, America's market was huge. Thousands of whites addicted to prescription opioids were potential customers for black tar heroin. The Jalisco boys didn't sell to black people, afraid of being robbed, focusing almost exclusively on white clients. This nonviolent nature became one of their key competitive edges. White addicts, especially middle-class kids, didn't want to go to ghettos or dirty alleys to buy from ruthless dealers. The Jalisco boys were polite, delivered door to door, letting clients get heroin easily and conveniently. Another major edge was their product's purity and pricing. FBI tests showed black tar heroin was 80% pure, while traditional street dealers sold heroin at just 12% purity. And why? In typical supply chains, heroin changes hands 5 to 6 times, diluted at each step, from wholesalers to street dealers. But Jalisco drivers were salaried. They didn't tamper with drugs since their pay didn't depend on sales volume. Despite high purity, black tar heroin was very affordable. Paul Stone was an FBI agent investigating drug cartels in Portland. Stone told the author, "A kilo of black tar heroin costs $2,000 to produce, but sells for $150,000 in Portland. After deducting drivers' expenses and wages, profit per kilogram of black tar heroin far exceeds $100,000, allowing the Jalisco boys room to offer discounts. As more people entered the trade, profits began thinning. Black tar heroin prices kept falling from $20 per balloon initially to $6.50 by 2011 in some areas, about the price of a Marlboro pack. For users spending $200 daily on traditional heroin, they now got a full day's high at 1/5 the price. To attract business, drivers offered discounts like buy 6 days, get the 7th balloon free. Dents competed fiercely on service and experience, recognizing brand and marketing importance. They closely monitored premium clients to prevent churn. When a woman didn't call for drugs for 3 days, the Jalisco boys phoned her. "Ma'am, why haven't you bought heroin lately?" When she said she had no money, dealers delivered $50 worth of heroin to her, telling her, "This is free." Another woman received a care package with black tar heroin upon prison release. She relapsed. Dealers even conducted phone satisfaction surveys. Was the product quality good? Was the driver polite? Undercover cop Jamie in North Carolina got a call from a den boss after a deal, asking in broken English, about product quality. When Jamie expressed dissatisfaction, the Exalisco boys gave an extra balloon as compensation and apologized. With affordable pricing, quality marketing, and service mindset, the Exalisco boys expanded east from LA, establishing dens in at least 17 states by the early 2000s. Especially in areas conquered by OxyContin, black tar heroin effortlessly captured addicted users. So, an addict's daily OxyContin dose, over 100 milligrams, cost $100 at market prices. When they couldn't afford it, they naturally switched to cheaper, stronger black tar heroin. Those who originally used powdered heroin were also drawn to the higher purity black tar heroin. While rapidly expanding, the Exalisco system also challenged American law enforcement. Since the Xalisco boys only operated small scale, even when caught red-handed, drivers carried too little drugs to face prosecution, just deportation, while new recruits always replaced them. In 2000, the DEA and FBI launched Operation Oil Pit, arresting 182 dealers across U.S. cities, but seizing only approximately 27 kilograms heroin and $200,000. In 2006, the DEA launched Operation Gold Rush, but like 6 years prior, the Exalisco boys resurged. Bosses in Mexico reorganized U.S. operations while experienced drivers started their own dens. Meanwhile, the CDC found heroin overdose deaths tripled from 2010 to 2013. In 2014, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Oscar-winning actor for Capote, died of a drug overdose. Lead tests showed heroin, cocaine, amphetamines, and benzodiazepines in his system. Hoffman's death drew attention to the opioid crisis. Now, U.S. police actively investigate addicts dying in gas station restrooms. Under federal law, supplying lethal overdoses can lead to conspiracy to commit murder charges.
This means drivers face 20-year sentences, not deportation if tracked down.
Each arrested driver or raided den forces bosses to buy new cars and apartments. As small business owners sensitive to costs, raising expenses might work against the Xalisco boys. Parents have also begun taking action. America's opioid wave shows a youth trend. A 2004 survey found the average age of U.S. painkiller abusers was 22. Some were school sports stars, pressured by injuries and competition.
They got Vicodin, Percocet, OxyContin from coaches, eventually turning to heroin.
Some kids use drugs purely for fun. Heroin fulfills their dreams of tranquility and adventure they've never experienced in life. One addict said, "Buying and using drugs is equally addictive. You feel like James Bond, it's surreal." Ed Hughes, founder of an addiction clinic in Portsmouth, noted these kids grew up during the consumerist boom of the 1990s. Many were spoiled from childhood, bored with everything and utterly unprepared for life's dangers and hardships. Parents gave them private bedrooms and cars. They used those cars to buy drugs and died overdosing in their bedrooms. The author believes the Xalisco boys' business model wouldn't work without masses of car-owning middle-class kids. When children's lives are consumed by heroin and OxyContin, their parents often stay silent. These parents, born in the 1970s, grew up associating heroin with ghettos. How could it relate to their children?
Shame kept them silent.
In 2009, Joanna Crone from Portsmouth broke the silence. Her son Wesley sold his father's OxyContin to buy a gun. While high, Wesley inexplicably pointed the gun at his head and pulled the trigger. After her son's death, Joanna founded Solace, an organization letting parents grieve children lost to opioids. Another parent who spoke out was Wayne Campbell. His son Tyler, a college football player, got addicted to pills, then heroin. In 2011, Wayne and his wife sent Tyler to an expensive rehab center. 30 days later, Tyler came home clean, optimistic, and upbeat. But the next morning, Tyler was found dead in his bedroom. He'd likely hidden black tar heroin in his room before rehab. The drugs finally killed him. Wayne and his wife decided never to stay silent about their child's addiction again. He founded Tyler's Light, a nonprofit that gives opioid awareness talks in schools. with more parents joining their cause. After grief, confusion, and pain, these parents chose to warn the world with their children's stories. A mother named Ellen said, "There's so much evil in this, but we'll turn it toward good. We'll face it and make our child's death meaningful." Well, dream addiction. That concludes our interpretation. Reading notes are below the audio. See you next time.